Words of joy and hope is the solemnity of the Most Holy Trinity of the year B. The Gospel is from Matthew 28:16-20, and the commentary is by Father Fernando Armelini. The 11 disciples went to Galilee, to the mountain to which Jesus had ordered them. When they all saw him, they worshipped, but they doubted. A good Sunday to all. On the day of Easter, the risen one had told the women, "Tell my brothers to go to Galilee. There they will see me." How is it that they should go to Galilee? Since on Easter Day, the risen Lord has manifested himself to the disciples gathered in the cenacle. And he manifested himself also to the two of Emmaus. The disciples must return to Galilee if they want to make the full, complete experience of the risen one. They already had the manifestation that he is alive. They know that he is in heaven. But they still do not dare to give him their attention completely. They have not let themselves be completely involved. To believe that Jesus is alive, that he is risen, changes the whole life. Who are these disciples? They are 11, not 12. During Jesus' public life, which was practically all around the area of Galilee, and when the disciples followed Jesus, they were 12. Now it is a wounded group because one failed. He left. He made other option. He retained the idea that Jesus was a dangerous person for religion and for the life of his people. And what did he do? He delivered him to the constituted authority. He did not betray him. We use the word betray many times, but nowhere in the Gospels it is said that Judas betrayed the Lord. He has delivered him. He just thought that this Jesus should be stopped because he was subversive, he was dangerous for his people. Judas did not let himself be free from his religious conceptions, of the ideas he had on society. He continued with his own convictions and concluded that Jesus was a dangerous person. Therefore, there are only 11 now, and we wonder who they are. They are not self-confident people. Maybe we imagine them as being always happy because Jesus is risen. No, they are fearful people, convulsed. How can this be? They have made the experience of the risen one, and if he is right, then everything must change in their lives. They must forget about their dreams, their options. They understand that Jesus was serious when he said that he had to give his life. When he said that the grain that does not die, it does not bear fruit. And thus, if they were previously looking for success, to be famous people, now they understand that they must remain small. If they aspire to be rich, now they understand that they should become poor, that they should give everything for the life of the brothers and sisters. If they aspire to have many servants, now they understand that it is they who must become the servants of others. So Jesus was thwarting all their hopes. who were nourished by the interpretation that they gave to the prophecies of the prophets, that indeed they had said that the Israelites, faithful to the Lord, would succeed, would be rich, great, strong, powerful. Now they are a group humiliated by their own weakness, the difficulty they have to accept the new man. These 11 are we. And our church is weak, has little faith ever since the beginning. A church that believes a little and doubts a little. If we do not become aware of this inner situation, of the difficulty of accepting the proposal of life that Jesus makes, it means that we have not understood who he is. To overcome this difficult moment in the spiritual life of his disciples, Jesus orders them to go to Galilee, there, to the place where his public life took place. Therefore, they must retrace the journey they have made for 3 years in the company of Jesus. And the invitation is to climb the mountain. It is not to climb a mountain. It is not a material mountain. The mountain is a biblical image of the place, the moment, the situation where thoughts are left behind and the reasonings of the people are left behind, to internalize the thought, the judgment of God. If you do not climb the mountain, if you stay on the plain, you can be an admirer of Jesus, consider him an extraordinary person who has made sublime life proposals, who has died on the cross, but then we stay there. This is what has happened with everyone. But to be wrapped in love towards him, with a spousal love as when life is shared, it is necessary to return to Galilee, to go back to what happened during the public life and stay on that mountain, assimilate the message that has been announced from the mountain. What is it all about? It certainly is not that Mount Tabor. It is about the biblical mountain. The evangelist Matthew quotes several of these mountains. Let us recall some of them because they represent the mountain where one relates differently to the plain. The first mountain is that of the Beatitudes. If we remain in the midst of people, if we assimilate the message of the world and our heart is folded over the realities of this world, we will idolize it. If we stay in the plain, we cannot let ourselves be involved in the proposal of Christ. It is necessary to climb the mountain. Listen to Jesus' proposals. I think that on this point, we are all facing an objection that everyone have experienced. Okay, it's like this. I'm willing to give my adherence to the proposal of life that Jesus makes us, but first he must show me that he's the Son of God who works miracles. He must prove it. He has to give me the proof, a rational proof, and then I will give my consent. So, the starting point is wrong. Let us take the example of lovers. Let's say a girl. Now, this girl cannot ask to her love of the love of her life that first he shows her that he are an exceptional person, that he's unique, who is a person in her life. First you show me and then I will go out with you. It is not like this. It is necessary to review the starting point. First, she comes closer. She notes that he has the same taste, same values, and if she doesn't like him, she moves away. She begins to appreciate the values in which she also believes, and then, after spending some time in closeness, she feels completely at ease, and only then she gives him her adhesion. It means that you cannot start with a rational demonstration. First, live life with Jesus, and then you will understand. If we do not go up that mountain and we do not start to live the Beatitudes at his side together with him, we will never fall in love with Jesus. That is why we need to climb that mountain. Live my gratuitous love, says Jesus, and you will notice that people are beautiful when you live as I live life. You will understand that this is the true life. This is the first mountain. First, live the Beatitudes of the one who donates all his goods, the beatitude of those who are in love with justice. These are the Beatitudes that I have lived fully, says Jesus. You will realize that it is worth joining your life to mine. Now, the second mountain is that of the transfiguration, or better, of the metamorphosis. You have to climb that mountain. It is there where you will see the reality about the person of Jesus, not the appearances. The servant, the one who is not appreciated by the people, on the mountain is seen transfigured. We see his metamorphosis. He was the true man. The loincloth of the slave who washed the feet of the disciples, when seen on the mountain, is the royal dress. This is the experience we should do if we really want to be enveloped in the proposal of Jesus, to see this metamorphosis. It looked like a worm, but it is as beautiful as a butterfly. It seemed a humiliated, defeated person, but he was the true winner. Now the third mountain is that of bread distribution, the mountain on which the Master makes us understand God's sense and design about the goods of this world. If we do not go up the mountain, if we stay on the plain, we begin to cling to all possible goods and we idealize the goods of this world. We do not use them for the purpose to which God destined them. We consider them ours, we feel owners, and we are not. We are only administrators, and we must administer all the goods by sharing them with the brothers and sisters. If we do not climb this mountain, we will not let ourselves be convinced by Jesus' life proposal. The one that does not relate correctly to riches with the goods of this world and lives to accumulate them, manages them as owner, will never understand the beauty of life that Jesus has lived. The disciples see him on the mountain and they adore him. To adore him means that they recognize in him the presence of God. They recognize that his proposal of man is that which comes from God. And then the reading says that even there, in the mountains, some doubt. The experience of the doubt is ours. Not to doubt that if God exists, maybe also that one for some. But the doubt is, if I follow Christ, do I fulfill my life or ruin it? Will not I regret having spent my life where I could have enjoyed it without thinking on others? And sometimes we think it is worth, sometimes not. This is the doubt that the disciples had, and we also have the full adhesion to Christ, and this is the image of the church today. People are afraid to climb the mountain. They do something, some devotions, but they do not go up the mountain to fully assimilate the thought of Christ. And this is the invitation that Jesus makes to his disciples. They are weak, but the risen one promises them to be always at their side in the fulfillment of the mission he entrusted to them. Jesus came and spoke to them. All power in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all that I have commanded you. And behold, I am with you always until the end of the age. Perhaps we are the ones who get irritated by the doubts of these disciples who do not decide to give their full adherence to Christ. But Jesus does not worry about their doubts. He stays close to them. He understands them. His disciples see their dreams fall, their expectation, their hopes gone. They have seen what is it that remains of their judgment, their criteria, their scale of values, all turn around. The big ones are the little ones, the small ones. The servants are the bosses. To these disoriented people, Jesus approaches and says, all power in heaven and on earth has been given to me. What powers is he talking about? Let us understand it well. It is not the ability to dominate over others or to do what one wants. No. Jesus has only one power he has received from the Father: to give life, to give joy, to make us happy. And this is the power he will communicate to his disciples. And it is the only power that will communicate them. Jesus has received from the Father this Spirit who must communicate to the disciples. And he has received this power because he has renounced everything that is the power of this world, the powers of Satan, that Satan offered him at the beginning of Jesus' life. And Jesus refused it. There is only one authority that he communicates to the disciples, and it is the only time that he speaks of power given to the disciples. It is about expelling the unclean spirit, that is the forces of evil, and curing all kinds of diseases. Everything that is a sign of death must be defeated. And this commission has been entrusted to these disciples. This is the mission that Jesus gives these 11. And it is the same mission that he gives to us. It is expressed with 4 verbs. The first, go, start moving. You must not wait for people to come to you, but it is you, once you have become aware of the world that has been given, what is this new life, this new word of life that has brought the world, you should not keep it for you, but you must go to the world and get moving to take it to everyone. We know very well that the Israelites were not missionaries. They waited for the rest of the people to come to Jerusalem, bringing them their riches. Now, here is the movement, is the opposite. It is not the other people that must come. They should not wait for them. It is you who must bring the gift, this gift, to the world. The second verb, make disciples of all people. The disciple is the one who lives next to the master. He must understand his thoughts, his judgments, his way of life. And that is why when Jesus chooses his disciples, says the evangelist Mark, he chooses 12 to be with him, and only then to send them to preach. The first reason why Jesus calls his disciples is that they will be with him, so that by being by his side, they assimilate his values and his life. Jesus is not a doctrine. He is a concrete person that you have to know, listen to, talk to, a person whom you have to love. And the goal will be to be followers of his person afterwards. And these disciples are sent to all people. Israel was called the light of the world. Therefore, already in the Old Testament, Israel should have kept in mind that it should bring light to the world and be at the service of other people. They should not dominate other peoples. They were not privileged to be admired by all, or that other people were subjected to them. No, Israel was called to be the servant of the life of the other peoples. So, for example, Abraham should be a blessing to all. Now, the disciples must make disciples of all people, and they must baptize. That is, they must immerse everyone in the life of God, so that all may accept this life that is love, to receive the Spirit that Christ has brought into the world. Then the fourth verb, to teach, to observe all that Jesus has commanded. And Jesus ordered only one thing, to love. He does not ask them to teach a doctrine, but to show a new way of living. And they will show it as Jesus did, introducing himself with this new life incarnated. Therefore, the disciples should do the same in the world. And the gospel text concludes, which coincides also with the conclusion of the entire gospel of Matthew, I will be with you always until the end of the world. This is God with us. The divinities of the other peoples were in a specific place, and their devotees should go and look for them, visit them, offer sacrifices to receive their favors. But the God of Israel is not like these gods, like these pagan deities. The God of Israel is a God who is with his people, who accompanies his people. I will be with you. It is repeated so many times in the Bible. For example, when God calls Moses to liberate his people and Moses fears that he is not capable, he cringes, then the Lord assures him, I will be with you. Joshua, who must introduce Israel into the promised land, is afraid because the work is superior to his strength, and God gives him courage. I will be with you. Jeremiah is young. He is afraid of being a prophet. God says to him, I will be with you. The God of Israel is a God who is with his people. And here Jesus makes the same promise. Do not be afraid, I am with you. On the other hand, the God who is with us is the name by which God has presented himself. When he revealed himself to Moses, when he pronounced his name, he said, Eye Asher Eye. The translator does not mean I am who am I, but I am. I will always be by your side. This is the name of the God of Israel, the one that is always by your side. This name appears more than 6,000 times in the Bible in the Old Testament. It is the name that God has given. When you want to know who am I and want to call me, I am the one who is always by your side. This is my name. We also know what happened in the desert when the people walked towards the promised land. God was with his people. He had his tent where the Ark of the Covenant was, and this ark had sidewalks because it had to be transported. And it was the sign of God's presence that accompanied his people. It is interesting also that when the people abandoned their God and turned to idolatry, God does not abandon them, but he puts his tent outside the camp because they must understand that it is a great offense. But God continues to accompany his people. It is also moving when Israel is deported to Egypt and Ezekiel sees the cherubim who carry the Ark of the Covenant, see it perch on the top of the Mount Olives, and then this Ark of the Covenant goes to the east, where the Israelites are, because the God of Israel is with his people. It was during the Babylonian exile that a sad event happened, which has marked for centuries the spirituality of the people of Israel. The spiritual guides began to forget of this image of God's love preached by the prophets, the God that is always at the side of the people, the God who is always close. And this replaced it with the figure of the severe legislator demanding distance from his people. In fact, they said that God was beyond the seventh heaven. There were seven heavens, and from one heaven to another there were 500 years of road. Therefore, it took 3,500 years of road walking to get to him. Very distant. It was inaccessible. And that's when it started to no longer pronounce the name of the Lord, the tetragram, those four letters that today, out of respect for Israel, we do not pronounce this name in Hebrew. But God had taught this name to be pronounced. It was replaced by Adonai, Lord. And not to pronounce this name anymore is the sign of the distance that has been created between God and his people. When God came to be seen in the world and has taken our likeness, he became one of us. His name, says the evangelist Matthew, is Emmanuel, God with us. Jesus has fulfilled the prophecy of Isaiah that had spoken of God with us. Jesus is truly the incarnation of God who cannot be far from people. And this word is with us. God, Jesus, is present in our midst with his word, with his gospel. And he is present in our midst in the Eucharistic bread. That bread that represents all his life history, even given to nourish our life. It is our mission to make present this face of God that is love, and that Jesus made present in the world. I wish everyone a good Sunday and a good week.